and the hummingbird lived near a big lake. They were good friends, but they were very different. Heron was tall, strong, and slow, and Hummingbird was small and very fast. Heron and Hummingbird loved to eat fish from the lake. Heron liked the big fish, and Hummingbird liked the little fish. One day Hummingbird said to Heron, "There are not enough fish in the lake for you and me. Let's have a race. Let's fly for 4 days to the old tree near the river. The winner of the race can have all the fish in the lake, but the loser must never eat fish again." Now Hummingbird was much faster than Heron, and he knew he could win the race easily. But Heron was a kind bird, and he didn't like to say no to anyone. "That's a good idea," he said. The next morning, Heron and Hummingbird met at the lake. "Good morning, my friend," said Heron. "You think you can fly faster than me, do you, Heron?" Hummingbird laughed. "Remember, we are going to fly to the old tree near the river. The winner of the race can have all the fish in the lake, but the loser must never eat fish again. Are you ready, Heron?" said Hummingbird. 3, 2, 1. "Go!" he cried, and the two birds flew up above the lake. Heron flew slowly, but he didn't look down. His long wings never stopped moving. He just flew and flew. Hummingbird flew very fast, but he was soon bored. Every time he saw a pretty flower, he flew down and drank from it. Sometimes, when Hummingbird drank from the flowers, Heron flew ahead of him. When Hummingbird saw this, he flew quickly after Heron, and soon he was in front again. "Why don't you fly faster?" Hummingbird called to Heron. "Then you can drink from the flowers too." Hummingbird looked at Heron behind him, and laughed. "I'm going to win this race easily," he thought. Flap, 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 flutter, flutter, flutter. All day the birds flew. Heron flew slowly, but he was strong and he never stopped. Hummingbird flew fast, but he went up and down, up and down. At last evening came. Hummingbird was tired, so he found a good place in a tree and stopped for the night. "Heron is very slow," he thought. "I can soon fly ahead of him in the morning," and soon he fell asleep. Heron didn't stop. Flap, flap, flap. He flew all night. The big white moon shone on the trees below, but Heron didn't look down. He just flew and flew. "Good morning, my friend," said Heron. Hummingbird flew ahead and looked back. "Aren't you tired, Heron?" he laughed. "I had a very good sleep, and I'm in front of you again." Flap, flap, flap. All the second day, the big heron flew, and he never stopped or looked down. Flutter, flutter, flutter. The little hummingbird flew up and down, up and down. He stopped and drank from the pretty flowers, and then he flew ahead of Heron once more. On the second night, Hummingbird slept in a tree again, but Heron flew all night, and on the third day, Hummingbird flew in front of Heron again. He drank from the flowers and then fluttered near the big bird. "Aren't you tired, Heron?" he called. "Don't you want to stop?" On the third night, Hummingbird stopped in another tree. "We're nearly at the river now," he thought. "In the morning I can fly ahead of Heron. I can fly to the old tree and win the race. Then I can eat all the fish in the lake." Heron was tired, but he felt a little wind on his wings, and he didn't stop. He just flew all night. Flap, 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 Hummingbird slept well again, and the next morning he felt good. I'm going to win the race today, he laughed, and he flew after Heron, but it was very windy, and Hummingbird couldn't fly well. He fluttered his wings faster and faster, but the wind pushed him back. Where's Heron? He thought. But he couldn't see Heron anywhere. Hummingbird saw the old tree. The old tree near the river, and at the top of the tree, he saw Heron. Heron was the winner. I am much faster than you, Hummingbird said to Heron. How did you get here? How did you win? I flew all night, said Heron. You drank from the flowers and you slept. But I felt the wind coming and I never stopped. This morning I arrived at the old tree. I'm tired and hungry, but I'm the winner, so after that, Hummingbird never ate fish again. He flew around the pretty flowers all day, and drank from them. He and Heron were still good friends. But now Heron had all the fish in the lake. He was very happy, and this is why now, herons everywhere eat fish, and hummingbirds drink from flowers. Part 1. It was New Year in the city of Skyraz in Persia. The city square was full of people. The king and his family were there too. There was music and dancing. There were fire eaters and snake charmers. And of course there was a lot of delicious food and drink. Suddenly, an Indian man appeared in front of the king. He had a beautiful horse with him. It was made of black wood. The Indian spoke to the king, "Your Majesty, this is a very special horse." "Really?" said the king. "Why is it special? What can it do?" "It can fly, Your Majesty. When I press this little button on its neck, it flies up into the air and takes me where I want to go." "Your horse is certainly a very special horse," said the king. "I'd like to have it for myself. I'll sell it to you, Your Majesty." "And what's the price?" asked the king. "Your daughter." "I want to marry your daughter," replied the Indian. "That's a very high price for a horse." "It isn't a high price for a horse that can fly, Your Majesty. Try it and you'll see for yourself." "Let my son, Prince Firouz, try the horse," said the king. Prince Firouz immediately jumped on the horse's back and pressed the button on its neck. The horse flew up into the air, into the clouds, and disappeared. The king was very angry. "Where is my son?" he shouted. "Bring him back." "I can't," replied the Indian. The king ordered his guards to put the Indian in prison. "My guards will kill you if Prince Firouz isn't back in 3 months, he said. Meanwhile, the horse and the prince flew higher and higher. The prince was happy. He enjoyed flying on the horse. Then it began to get dark. "It's late," he thought. "I must land." He looked carefully at the horse's neck and saw another little button. He pressed it and the horse landed on the terrace of a beautiful white palace. He got off and looked around him. There was a small door in the corner of the terrace. He opened it and saw some stairs. He went down them and into a long hall with many doors. There was a light under one of them, so he opened it. 6 guards were asleep on the floor. The light was coming from a lamp in another room behind a curtain. Prince Firouz moved the curtain and looked in. He saw a big sofa and some women asleep around it. On the sofa there was a very beautiful girl. Prince Firouz touched her arm gently and she opened her eyes. "Don't be afraid," he said. "I'm the son of the king of Persia. I don't want to hurt you. I'm lost and in danger." "I'm the daughter of the Sultan of Bengal," said the princess. "Don't worry. You're safe in my palace." Then she called one of her maids and said to her, "Give the prince some food and a bed. We'll talk in the morning." The princess thought about the handsome young prince all night. The next morning she put on her most beautiful dress and finest jewels and went out into the garden. Prince Firouz was there. He told her his story. "Dear princess, I must return home to my father," he said. "He doesn't know that I'm here." The princess was sad when she heard this. "Can't you stay for just 2 more days?" she asked. "I'm lonely here. My maids and the palace guards are my only companions." The prince looked at the sad face of the beautiful princess of Bengal and decided to stay. Part 2. The days became weeks and the weeks became months. The prince and the princess fell in love. They wanted to get married. One day Prince Firouz said, "I must go back to Persia. My father's waiting for me. Come with me. We can get married and live there." The princess agreed. So that night after dark they both got on the horse's back and flew across the skies to Persia. They landed in the garden of a small house outside the city. "Stay here tonight," he told her. "I'll come for you tomorrow." Then Prince Firouz went to his father's palace. The king was very happy to see his son again. He told the guards to bring the Indian to him. "Take your horse and never enter my kingdom again," he said to him. The Indian was angry with the king because he put him in prison. And he was angry with Prince Firouz because he took his horse. He wanted his revenge. The palace guards told the Indian that his horse was in a house outside the city, so he went there the next day. A servant answered the door. The Indian said, "The prince is waiting for the princess. She must come with me to the palace." A few moments later the princess was on the horse behind the Indian. They flew up into the air and in the direction of the palace. The prince and the king looked up and saw them. But the horse didn't land there. It flew over the palace and disappeared. The prince was afraid. The princess is in danger. "I must go and look for her immediately," he said to his father. The horse took the Indian and the princess to India. It landed in a forest near the Sultan of Kashmir's palace. The princess started shouting for help. The Sultan was hunting in the forest that day and he heard her. "Perhaps that girl is in danger," he thought. "I must go and save her." When he saw the Indian, he pulled out his sword and killed him. Then he put the princess on his horse and they rode back to his palace. Early the next morning the princess heard a lot of noise outside her room. "What's that noise?" she asked a maid. "The servants are preparing for your wedding. Tomorrow you will marry the Sultan," she said. The princess was horrified. "I must do something," she thought. "I can't marry the Sultan. I don't love him." She started shouting and crying and pulling her hair. The maid was afraid. She went to the Sultan and said, "The princess is ill. She can't marry you tomorrow. Look after her," he said. "And we'll get married when she's better." But weeks and months passed. Many doctors came to see the princess, but she didn't get better. Then one day a young doctor from Persia arrived at the palace gate. It was Prince Firouz. The princess was very happy to see him. "We must escape," the prince told her. "And I have a plan. But first, you must stop crying and smile at the Sultan." So the princess stopped crying and smiled at the Sultan. He was very happy. "You are a very good doctor," he said to Prince Firouz. "The princess is well now. You can go home. She isn't completely well," the prince said. The enchanted horse put a magic spell on her. "Bring the horse and the princess to the square this afternoon and I'll take away the spell. Tell all the people in the town to come and watch." At 4 o'clock that afternoon the city square was full of people. The Sultan and the princess were there too. When the guards brought the horse, Prince Firouz made 4 fires around it. He said some strange words and threw some powder into the fires. Suddenly, there was a lot of smoke. It was impossible to see anything. At that moment Prince Firouz and the princess jumped on the horse's back and the horse flew up into the air. Soon they arrived at the king's palace in Skyraz. The king and his people were very happy to see them. The next day the prince and the princess got married and they lived happily for the rest of their lives. My name is Brigadier Gerard. In 1814 I was a soldier in the French army, and we were with the Emperor Napoleon in the town of Reims. One day a man, MacDonald, came to see me and my friend, Major Charpentier. "The Emperor wants to see you," MacDonald said. "Come with me." We went with him to the Emperor's rooms. "Charpentier, Gerard," the Emperor said. "Come here." "Yes, sir," we said. "See on this map," the Emperor said. "We are at Reims, here, and there is Paris. The German and the Russian armies are near Paris, but I will stop them. My brother, the King of Spain, is in Paris now, and he has 100,000 soldiers. Take these letters to my brother," the Emperor said. "I am going to Paris in 2 days, and he will read that in these letters. You, Charpentier, will ride your horse to Alchy, then Neuilly, then to Paris. And you, Gerard, will ride to Soissons and Senlis, and then to Paris. Only these towns. Do you understand?" I said, "Do you understand, sir?" "Yes, sir," we said. Charpentier and I rode to the town of Bazoux. There, he took the road to Alchy and I took the road to Soissons. "Gerard," Charpentier asked me, "why did the Emperor say what was in the letters? And why did he tell us to go to towns where there are Russian and German soldiers? He knows we are good soldiers and clever men," I said. Charpentier laughed. "We are good soldiers, my friend, but clever men." "Oh, no." He laughed again, then he rode away. I rode my horse, Violet, to Soissons, and I thought about Charpentier. Why did he laugh? It was dark, and in a forest near Soissons a woman stopped me and said, "Soldier. Soldier, are you going to Soissons? The Germans are there." I did not wait. I rode Violet fast to Soissons. There they were in the streets, German soldiers. I took out my sword and shouted, "The Emperor! Napoleon! France!" The Germans rode after me. I cut one soldier's arm with my sword. They tried to catch me, but Violet was very fast. We quickly came to a quiet road in the forest, and the Germans could not find me. I gave Violet some water, then we rode slowly to Senlis. The night was dark and quiet. I thought of a girl, Lisette. She lived in Paris. I was happy. Then there were men shouting at me. I saw 6 German soldiers standing near some trees. One of them shot at me. One of them got on his horse and rode after me. Violet ran fast, but she was tired now, and the German soldier came very near me on his horse. He had a sword, but no gun. I rode Violet slowly. I was ready to shoot at the German soldier, then I saw his face. He was very young, a boy of only 17 or 18. I thought of his mother. I shot the boy's horse. Oh, after that we rode fast, Violet and I. Then I saw hundreds of French soldiers on the road and I was very happy. I stopped and talked to one of them, my old friend Bouvet. I'm going to Paris, Bouvet, I said. I have a very important letter from the Emperor to his brother. But why are you here? The Russians and Germans are here, said Bouvet. I talked to the Emperor, and he said, go to Senlis. I said, come with us, my friend, said Bouvet. We're going to Senlis with some Polish soldiers. They don't like the Russians. We arrived at Senlis in the morning. The Russian soldiers were all in a big house in the town. There were German soldiers in the forest near Senlis. The Polish soldiers shouted, took out their swords and ran into the house. Bouvet ran with them. Then I went into the house, my sword and my gun in my hands. I was a soldier of France. I wanted to be with Bouvet and the Polish soldiers. But I had the Emperor's letter and I was wrong not to go to Paris. Good, now we have Senlis, said Bouvet. I want a drink. Where's the wine? Let's look for it. Come on. I said. We went to a big room under the house and found some wine. We started to drink. The wine was very good. Then there were shouts in the house, guns shot and feet ran. It was the German soldiers from the forest. Bouvet ran back up to the house. I thought of the Emperor's letter and I stayed in the room. I wanted to get to Paris. What can I do? I thought. There are 200 or 300 German soldiers in the house. There are no windows in this room. Where can I go? Then I saw a small door. I opened it and went into a small, dark room. I looked for a long time and then I saw a face, a man's face, a Russian soldier's face. He shouted, I shouted. Then I took out my sword and said, come here. Slowly, who are you? Come on. Who are you? I said, I'm Count Bautkine, he said. A soldier of the Emperor Alexander of Russia. Why are you here, under the house? I said, I came down here for some wine this morning. I drank some wine, then you French came and I stayed here, he said. Count Bautkine, this is all very difficult and dangerous, I said. Why? He said. There are Polish soldiers in the house and, Polish, he said, and I'm a Russian soldier, I'm a dead man. What can I do? I'm thinking. I said. I looked at the Count. Your uniform, I said. My uniform? He asked. You have a Russian uniform, I said. Take my uniform. The Polish soldiers will see you in a French uniform and you can get away. You're a good man, the Count said. but what will you do? The Polish soldiers will see you in my Russian uniform. Oh, I said, they know me. I'll run to them and shout, I'm Brigadier Gerard. I'm French. The Count gave me his uniform quickly. You stay here, I told him. I'll talk to the Polish soldiers first. I put a heavy box at the door of the small room. I didn't want the Count to go up to the house and see the German soldiers. Then I walked into the house. In the house I put the big Russian hat on my head and walked slowly to the door. Good morning, one of the German soldiers said to me. I only knew these words in Russian. At night I'll see you near the tree. In the morning I'll see you at the river. The soldier didn't understand Russian, but he was happy with my answer. I found Violet and rode quickly away from Senlis. I rode Violet for some time, then I saw a man. He was a Russian soldier. He rode quickly to me and smiled. A Russian soldier, he thought. I'll go and talk to him. I'm finished, I thought. I took my sword in one hand, then I took the Emperor's letter from my shirt. Perhaps the Russian will kill me, I thought, but I'll eat this letter first. The soldier shouted at me in Russian, but I answered in French, Napoleon and France. The Russian stopped. I rode fast at him. My sword was out. He rode fast at me. I hit the soldier with my sword. He didn't hit me. I hit him again. He was dead. I rode fast for Saint Denis and the French army in Paris. I arrived in Saint Denis. The French soldiers saw my uniform. A Russian, they shouted. He's Russian. One young man came at me with his sword. I shouted at him in French, I'm Brigadier Gerard. I come from the Emperor. Ah, his face went white then. I gave Violet some food and water. Then I rode to Paris to see the Emperor's brother, the King of Spain. The people of Paris knew of me. They knew of Senlis and the Russian uniform. In the streets the men shouted at me and the women smiled. I was very happy. I gave the letter to the King of Spain, and he read it. After, he looked at me for a long time. Perhaps he wants to question me, I thought. Is Major Charpentier here, sir? I asked the king. No, he said. Who is Charpentier? He has a letter too, sir. The same letter, I said. Oh, I see. Now I understand, the king said. I do not think Charpentier will arrive. He laughed. Not arrive. Why did the king think that? What did he understand? And why did he laugh? I rode back to Reims and went to see the emperor. He was with some soldiers. They had a map on the table before them. Then the emperor saw me. What's he doing here? The emperor said. MacDonald, where is Charpentier? With the Russians, sir, said MacDonald. They have his letter. Good, the emperor said. Charpentier is a clever man and I'll give him a medal. But you, Gerard, no medal for you, sir, I don't understand. I said. You told me to give my letter to your brother. Oh, the emperor said. I wanted the Russians or the Germans to catch you. I wanted them to have the letter. Read it. I will be with you in Paris in 2 days with my army. We are going to Soissons then Senlis. I want the Russian and German armies to go to Soissons and Senlis, the emperor said. Then we will go to Auchy and Neuilly, and from there to Paris. It will be easy for us to get to Paris. Do you understand, man? I understand now, I said. Now. MacDonald, where did you find this man? The emperor shouted. I stood with my head up. Sir, I said to the emperor, you told me to take this letter to Paris. It was very dangerous. I did it for you. I did it for France. Then I told the emperor of the Germans at Soissons, the young German soldier in the forest, Count Boutkine and his uniform, and the Russian soldier on his horse. They didn't catch you? The emperor asked. That's good. Yes, that's good. Then he laughed and said, MacDonald, give me a medal for Gerard. He is not a clever man, but he is a very good